So this one is SMS spam classification problem using RNNs. And this one will be doing basic EDA, exploratory data analysis, which we had covered previously in our Titanic problem also. So I'll be keep doing this in similar problems so as to we can have a proper brush up of what we had learned previously. So we just start the basic imports. We have pandas, numpy, matplotlib, seaborn for visualization, and sklearn train test split to split the data to training and testing, and label encoder for encoding data. And from Keras models, we have all the type of layers as activation, dense, dropout, input, and embedding layers. And then we have RMS propagation optimizer, and then we have tokenizer, which is a text-based feature generator. So this thing is used in NLP problems, natural language processing problems, and then we have the sequence processing. All of these are used in text processing, basically. And then you have the two categorical and the early stopping. Early stopping essentially makes a model stop its training prematurely when it notices that there is no significant improvement happening in the training result. Yeah. So now we just do the pandas data frame. So we have this V1, V2. Unfortunately, we have unnamed columns. So this is a common problem when it comes to CSV files. So how to handle it is simple. You have df.drop in pandas, where you just knock off the unnecessary data frames when unnecessary columns with axis is equal to 1. Axis is equal to 1 denotes columns. Just knock it off. So this is the data. Ham, which is the opposite of spam. Spam is a spam message and ham is a normal message. The data which we have is pretty less now. I will just plot the df head so that we can have a better look at the data. So this is the input, okay? And using this input, you're going to determine if a message is ham or spam. So it's a pretty interesting problem where we have very less features. So I'll just clear off the output so that we don't be having any issues. Yeah. And let's understand the distribution by plotting the number of ham and spam messages. So clearly there's a huge imbalance in the data first. We have less than 1,000 spam messages and more than 4,000 ham messages. So it just create the input vectors. So first thing is we'll just encode the target variable, which is ham and spam. So that one's value is, I'll just show you. Since we have already encoded it, yes. So v1 is the target and v2 is the independent variable, right? And now we have generated by. By is nothing but the encodings for the same. So 0 is ham, 1 is spam. So basically we have used a label encoder. Define the label encoder as LE and then transform it, and then you're good to go. And now we'll just do the same old exercise of splitting the data into train and test. So we have split the data into train and test. So I just have described a few simple steps which you'll be processing, executing to handle text data. First one is we will tokenize the data and convert the text into sequences. So we will get into each of these and the next steps, and then add a padding to ensure all the sequences are same shape. So one thing that is common in text data problems is that the size of the sentence which you're passing in as input varies. So all the sentences are of not the same shape. So you add padding to ensure all of them are in the same uniform shape so that the size of the data set does not vary. And then here, this is the maximum length. It means the maximum size of the text data sample. So here we have set of the length of 150. So it can be up to you to determine how much it can be. If you're passing articles, news articles or paragraphs of text, you might have to set a max length of, let's say, 1,000 in a big case. So this one is entirely up to you. So now let's move on to the feature extraction. So first one is the Keras text tokenizer. So you just pass text data to it and it gets vectorized. So how we vectorize is that the text is converted into a sequence of integers, and it's called a vector, where the coefficient could be binary or based on word count or TF-IDF. So Keras text tokenizer takes a combination of various vector transformation algorithms and TF-IDF algorithms, which is the term frequency inverse document frequency algorithm, to generate text features. So next we have text to sequences. So text to sequences converts the input tokens into a sequence of integers. And as we had discussed previously, we have paired sequences. So paired sequences, what it does is this is the specified length that we have, and based that length, we pair the text so that it is accommodated easily into a data frame. So here we have defined the metric. So maximum words in a sentence is 1000, maximum length is 150. The first thing that is defined a tokenizer. So tokenizer that can handle max words number of words, that means 1000 different words, and fit the tokenizer upon the data. So I'll first run this one and show you what tok is. TOK. This is a Keras piece of pre-processing text tokenizer that we have generated here, and then generate the sequences matrix. So now that we have converted our text into numbers, right, it is saved into a sequences matrix. So this is how it finally looks like. Your simple text data is now transformed entirely into a matrix of numbers. So these numbers are nothing but the previous sentence you had, and we will be using this matrix as a feature when a set of independent variables to predict that dependent variable or target, which is ham or spam. So this sentence is now converted into a sequence of numbers. And now this one is padded into a size of 150. What are the words that have the most significance? We have crazy, we have, and then you have buffet, right? So available is not that significant, but we can say second order of significance. Like that, this model goes through each and every text, uh, word in the sentence, and tries to assign a number to it based on its importance and the frequency in the entire X train. And that is what this is returned. So we have the sequences matrix now. We have 150 features and 4,736 sentences, which are now converted into a sequence of padded strings in the matrix, which are numbers basically. So now we'll just define the RNN, the recurrent neural network. So RNN is actually a slightly different type of neural network than what you had seen in the CNN. But the only similarity is that, like a CNN, it is a different type of deep learning model. But it doesn't behave like feed-forward neural networks. Here, they have the current neural networks have a backward connection between hidden layers. So I will show you how it looks like. A proper diagram would show. STM cell. So let that load here. Yeah. So LSTM cells is what we will be using, and it's really popular as a recurrent neural network. So assume these two are the hidden layers. Okay, I'll just open this one part up. So the ones inside this, right? H and H, right? These two are the hidden layers in this particular neural network. So what happens inside is that, do you notice the small operations in which the data goes ahead, but again returns, goes back, again returns, goes back. What this creates is that this type of back and forth movement of data between hidden layers, right? It creates some sort of a memory within them. Some sort of the data is like it's memorized in this back and forth movement. Like, for example, say you're preparing for an exam. So what do? You go through the same topic over and over again if it is a challenging one, right? So that these essentials are memorized by you. The same way, the long short term or the RNNs have a back and forth movement of the information between the hidden layers, so that some sort of a memory cell is generated between them, which you can see here. So these ones, sigmoid is here, tanh, sigmoid, sigmoid. So these are all the activation functions that are part of this LSTM, which we do not need to declare. It is already stored in the Keras LSTM model package. So you just load the model and embed it between your layers, like how we have done here. Now that we have completed definition for RNN, we'll just go through the basics now. So Keras embedding layer is nothing but a layer that can be used for neural networks and text data. So the one prerequisite of the Keras embedding layer is that the input data be encoded in form of integers, so that each word is represented by a unique integer, like how we have seen here. Each word is represented by a unique integer, and the data preparation step can be performed using the tokenizer API provided with Keras. So this is the tokenizer API which we are used and generated the text tokens from it. And now we have LSTM, which is nothing but long short-term memory networks, which we had explored in the previous image. So these are built for speech recognition, language modeling, and text prediction. So they have good performance on these type of problems. Hence, in most text classification or let's say regression problems, LSTM is the way to go. So it keeps going through the data over and over again, such that it comes to a level that it knows what is significant and what is insignificant. So that's one really good feature of LSTMs. So next one is the ReLU activation function, which we had explored previously. We just move ahead. We have a dropout. So we had explored dropout previously in our Titanic data problem using Keras. So what dropout is, it's a technique where some neurons which are randomly selected in the neural network are ignored during training. Basically, they are dropped out randomly on a random basis without us telling what to be dropped out. So that the contribution of the dropout these neurons due to dropout in the neural network is temporarily removed. So basically, they won't be contributing anything at all in the forward bus, and any weight updation, bias updation is there, right? They are also not. They won't happen in just particular neurons which are dropped out. This is done so as to ensure the model does not overfit. So now we have moved on to the final one, the sigmoid activation function, so which we have covered a lot of times. Here we'll be defining the RNN using a function. So you can define it anyway, but one of the ways I wanted to just show how the neural nets are defined using functions. So when you can implement it in a development environment, it'll be pretty easy. So we just define the inputs. So how it happens is, I will just show it in a diagrammatic way. So I won't describe how a neural network looks like, but rather do it layer by layer. So in a neural network, the information keeps going from layer to layer, right? So information moves from layer one to layer two. I won't be focusing on backprop because we are pretty familiar with that concept now. Layer two, layer three, and layer four. So this is how the data moves in a neural network. Same way, we will be implementing this in our function. So just define inputs. So and the shape of the inputs which you are taking from the data, which is the sequences matrix. So we'll define this and then define an embedding layer. Embedding layer is nothing like the doorway to your neural network. It's like the entrance to your neural network where it receives the incoming data. So this is in case of text problems, keep it in mind, where the inputs are passed to it. So we have defined the embedding parameters and all and passing the inputs to it. All right. And then we have defined this layer. Now we pass this layer into an LSTM cell. Can you see this? This previous layer is passed into this. Same way we'll define it as layer again. Now this layer is passed into a dense layer. Basically going ahead. Same way we had implemented previously. Same way this layer information goes into this dense layer information goes into the activation function, and from the activation function this layer information goes to the dropout layer. We are doing dropout because the model tends to overfit and we do not want that, and the dropout layer information goes out to the dense layer. We just named this out layer. You can also give names to your layers. It's a pretty good practice in building neural networks, but keep in mind, don't give it to names to all layers because you might end up spending a lot of time in waste. Just flag a few important layers. Like if you feel that okay, this layer I have to keep an eye upon, give a name to that layer, a really good layer. So this is I gave it a name as out layer, denoting output layer. And from the output layer, the data goes into the activation layer, where the prediction is done to either 0 or 1 using an activation function of sigmoid. And then this is the model. Input is inputs, output is layer, and we'll return the model that we have generated in this RNN. So now we'll just call the function by defining model as RNN, and don't confuse these two. We are just generating a recurrent neural network and defining it as model, and generating the model summary, which means the shape of the neural network and what all layers are within it. Following which, we will compile the model using a binary cross entropy loss function. This loss function is taken because it is a binary classification problem, and it is go ahead with the metric of accuracy. So now that we have defined a model, generated the summary, and compiled the model, let's have a good look of it. So we have the input layer, which will take a data of the shape 150, and then we have the LSTM cell. We have the FC1, which we are named as, which is nothing but the dense layer. We have given a name here for the first dense layer as FC1. FC1 is nothing but fully connected layer. So then we have the activation function, and then the dropout layer, which ensures the overfitting doesn't happen, and the out layer, which is nothing but a fully connected dense layer, which denotes output. And the output activation function is sigmoid, which layer is we have defined as activation. It is sigmoid activation function here. So we will just have compiled the model. So after compiling model, we will just uh, it means nothing but the model is good to go. So we just fit the model upon training data. So this is X, which is nothing but the sequences matrix, the training data for X. This is the Y train, which means the targets. We have batch size 128, which means 128 rows or sentences will be taken at once for training. It goes to 10 epochs of training, followed by 80-20% split of training and testing data. And then we'll ensure early stopping so that the model doesn't run forever. Run forever means if it notices that there is no significant improvement in accuracy or loss after a certain point, the model itself will stop. So putting on early stopping as a callback in your model.fit code actually works to your benefit. You can save time that is spent in training a model. So as we're talking, we have initiated the training. So do you notice anything? So we have accuracy of 99% for training data and a validation accuracy of 98%. So we'll just move on to validating this data. So we have the testing data, right? X test. So we will transform this data and apply feature engineering to get the integer values for the text out. The same thing, we will transform it using tokenizer, and then sequence and pad sequence upon this one to generate this text sequences. So basically, this is how it will look. Test sequences matrix. So this is the testing data. We want to know how it performs upon the testing data, which means the data the model has never seen before. So how we test the deep learning model is in Keras is using model.evaluate, testing data X and Y test, which is the targets. So testing is done. We'll just see the accuracy. So accuracy is nothing but you get a list showing the loss and the accuracy in this one. So you just see how it looks like. So we have a loss of 0.04 and an accuracy of 98.7% upon validation data. So this is how it has gone in this case. So data is also less, and one good thing which you have noticed in this is that despite working with less than 4,000 data points, we have achieved a good accuracy and haven't made the model go overfit. So this one is an extra part. I have attached the link for you to go through for attention. So this is actually work is still going up on upon this, but I thought it's better to have an inclusion of this. So attention, as the name says, it is used in RNNs, in recurrent neural networks, which allows the model to focus on the on certain parts of the input data when predicting a certain part of the output sequence. This enables easier learning and higher quality of the outputs. So we will just try this approach. It's still going in research process, but this code is out. So same thing, let us define the model just as it is as before, with input layer and then embeddings and then LSTM, fully connected dense layer, activation layer, dropouts, dense, and the model, final out model, which is going to be returned. So this is the formula for attention. So we'll just permute through a number of inputs and get the attention value and add it to your model. So this is more implementation of attention. So we'll be using activation function of softmax in this within it and get the attention part. So what we will now do is we will add attention to the model. It's a small embedding into it. So we'll attach that. And now same thing, we will train the model and see how it performs. So it's same data. So we have training data, which is of 4,376 sentences which are now converted into integers of shape 4376, 150. And this is the target data. And now let us define M, which is nothing but model attention. So these two are the attention layers, these three. So we have this two-dimensional data of 150, 64, right? This one, after going to attention and multiply layers, will now be flattened. Flattened is nothing but making it flat. So let's get back to the simple layer-based approach. So this is one. So attention and mul are here, and then flatten is nothing but flatten the entire data which is passing through this into a single dimension, which is what has been done here. So how we mentioned that it is that the multiplication of these two is equal to this one. 115 to 64 is 9600, and single dimension one, which is flat. This is what flatten layer is, and we'll take the output of flatten layer and use it to predict the class to which the given sentence belongs to. Basically determining if a text belongs to spam or ham class. So now that we have defined the model summary, we will just go ahead to compile the model. So this one actually takes a little more time because of the reason that we have added 3 layers to the existing neural network. Do you notice any improvement in the previous epoch and the epoch that is running now? Did you check the loss? Loss is dropping, but the accuracy isn't increasing much, but the loss is dropping well. So as I said, this is still in research. So when till it gets implemented, I feel the one which we had executed previously, right, with a 98% accuracy. So this will still be in range. So I just see how it goes. The early stopping is here. But yeah, it seems to learn something in this, right? It's not stopped after 4. In the previous one, it stopped after 4. But now it's still going to 7 and all. Oh yes, we see a jump. Do you notice something here? Now it's hit 95% accuracy in epoch number 7. What you can say is it's slowly learning, but it's going in the right way. We have 97.6% accuracy, but I feel that over the higher iterations, it can hit at least 99% accuracy. That's what I expected to have to. So, evaluation is done and 97.7% accuracy for the validation data. Not bad. So this concludes our session on RNNs and long short-term memory cells.